Well, I want to welcome everybody to the January Eye on Piscataway, and we're very fortunate enough to have two representatives of the Piscataway Township Police Department. We have our Public Safety Director, Stith, and then we have Captain Kapsch right here, happened to stop by. And the reason why I asked both of them to stop by Eye on Piscataway, we need to have a frank sit-down discussion with the township residents about crime. That's not everybody who's an official or a mayor of a local community want to have to sit down and talk about, but in our case, the Piscataway Township, as beautiful and as nice our town is, we have a growing cancer within our community and has now metastasized. We have we have a couple things going on. We'll start with the pop-up parties, and then we'll get to where all the real heavy crime is happening within our community. Just recently, in December, the council changed an ordinance about having large gatherings and how you have to register with the Piscataway Police Department, and then also the fact that if you're aiding and abetting these parties, that you could be held responsible where you couldn't in the past. So, Director Stith, could you explain, and both Captain Kapsch, can you explain the genesis of all this and why the governing body had to change the ordinance to allow the police department to effectuate some enforcement that wasn't being able to go on?
So pop-up parties are real popular, especially down the shore. Over the summer, we had a couple of pop-up parties, which is really a public safety issue. One party, we had over about 90 folks outside the party, and it just caused, it challenged us as a police department. So that ordinance is important. We need to know what parties are going on in our community.
Well, I think Captain, you were over the one that happened over July 4th, over in Michael Street off in the William Street area.
Yes.
There was a lot of people out there.
I responded to the scene because I heard the chaos on the radio. July 4th is always a big day in town, with the fireworks and everything in the events. So one of our sergeants was calling for additional units to respond up there because it was getting so rowdy. So with this particular party, which July 4th, it was publicized on social media. That's part of the problem. They posted on Instagram, so you get all these outside, usually younger kids come in to the party and pay a fee to enter the party. On this particular party,
which now becomes a business.
Correct.
Yeah.
Usually the homeowner will hire their personal security guards, but they can't control what's going on there. So we were called to break up the party because it was becoming a real public safety issue. The streets were gridlocked with cars. There was I estimated over 1,000 kids at this party. We had to call mutual aid from surrounding agencies. We put it over the county hotline. We had help from all the surrounding agencies come in, and it took us a good 2.5 hours to clear this party out.
2.5 hours to clear out an illegal party.
And July 4th is already a busy day in town, and all of our resources were allocated to this one particular party, and calls were stacked up all night because of this one party. It just disrupted the whole system.
So just from a police perspective, these pop-up parties, when they get very large, and you have no idea that this is happening, it creates a public safety hazard for the rest of the community.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
The main issue with this was children urinating on people's property, dancing on cars that didn't even belong to them. It was just total chaos, and all we could do was, if we see an offense, arrest them, but if you make an arrest, it would cause a bigger issue. So we would just try to clear the area out.
So there's also the enforcement aspect. When do you enforce? Because obviously you're way outnumbered. You don't want that to escalate, Director, right?
Right, correct.
You know, you try to diffuse it.
Right, and he's right, you try to de-escalate the situation. You just can't immediately go in and make an arrest, even though you see something, because that may escalate the situation. So you really got to be careful.
You don't know what's on the minds of the folks that showed up. So I think what's really concerning is, like, when you're saying it goes out over social media, these are folks that are not in town, folks that tend to be from outside of our township community that just come in and say, hey, there's an address. Let's go. I know that there was also another pop-up party on Mettler's Lane over by Zirkle Avenue where they must have had about 500 folks show up there because I know they got a call from Councilwoman Carmichael about it. She said that the kids were just wandering the streets. They didn't even know where they were. They got dropped off. They had no idea how to get home. And she ended up personally paying for several Ubers to get these kids out of here to wherever they had to go back to. And it's creating.
It's 100% accurate. I would talk to some of the kids at the July 4th party that were leaving, and I'd say, "Where'd you come from?" And it was all over the state, and not one of them was a Piscataway resident.
And you don't know if they're showing up with weapons.
You don't know.
You don't know.
You don't
and
know.
you know, an officer goes into a situation, a large crowd like that. You know, you have every intention to try to peacefully, you know, get people to move along. So what happens in a case the property owner has the party, and we have the new ordinance now? If it's a promoting company, then they get charged.
They get charged. The property owner will get charged. The promoter will get charged. Our guys are being sort of creative. We're looking at that the social media, and we're working backwards. So whoever's involved in putting that party together is going to get charged.
Well, I have to laugh. Some of these folks that had these pop-up parties, they were trying to claim, oh, it was just family and friends. But if you look at their social media, as you said, going backwards, it was obviously, hey, for $30 you can come to this party, and alcohol supplied, I don't understand some of these parents that are actually using their house to have minors have party where they're charging a fee, entrance fee, to have alcohol. And then they also have paid to have security, supposedly.
Yes, the two parties that we looked into, they definitely had security there. Paid security.
That tells you everything right down there when you're having paid security that you're expecting trouble. So I don't know, civilly, I don't know if their insurance, homeowners insurance would cover that. Probably not, because it's a separate business. But it does create a liability for the homeowners and for anybody sponsoring it. And I think the other issue is the neighbors, what they have to go through. And it's about a quality of life issue that's going on. And I know we had two of the council members that voted no. And, you know, it's easy to sit back if you haven't had that problem in your own area where you live in. But for the folks that have gone through these roving pop-up parties, and by the way, I want to credit the police department for contacting a lot of these folks that plan to have a pop-up party. And we're not talking about the ones that have been stopped before they actually happen.
Right, in advance.
In advance.
In advance. When we hear about it, we reach out immediately.
Yeah.
So we reach out in advance.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we know as a government entity. We need to know what assets are around. As you said, Captain, before, the one that happened on July 4th weekend, are, you know, all towns are stretched for security purposes July 4th. You know, whether you're having a fireworks display or not, it's just, it's a national holiday, and, you know, a lot of people are out having picnics and things like that. A lot of things tend to happen, and that is what's really concerning to me about these pop-up parties. I think this is a step in the right direction to help minimize, hopefully, and that neighborhoods aren't going to be basically be held hostage, so to speak, from these large public events. And because, you know, if you have an issue, what if you had an EMS call had to get in there, or a fire call?
We would, we actually did have that, and I had to clear somebody to go to that because it was an emergent situation.
Yeah.
It was a lady in cardiac arrest, so we didn't have time to wait, so I had to cut somebody off the party and go over to that call.
Yeah, so there you go, and that does create a lot of problems there. The other very large problem that we have in town, as I said, we were talking on set, that it is a cancer now that has metastasized, is the two hotels, one Motel 6 and also the extended stay, with the crime that's happening there. I know the month of January, the township governing body is going to be looking at this again. Can you two explain exactly what's going on over there? Because unless to the neighborhood over there.
I could say this. I've been here a year now. the Motel 6 has been my number one challenge. We respond to the Motel 6 2-3 times a day. I know the captain did some research over the last 3 years. We responded to the Motel 6 over 2,000 times. That's an inordinate amount of time to respond to one location. I have worked at bigger police departments in bigger cities. I never have seen anything like that. Never.
So what does that do to the police department when you're focusing on 2 sites with that amount of calls that are coming in?
Well, the other part of the town is just uncovered.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, we would call mutual aid to respond to emergency calls if we're tied up at the Motel 6, which happens a lot, more than we like. I could go over the numbers if you like.
You might as well go over the numbers. Say the facts.
The numbers don't lie. So for people watching the show that don't know, what we have is a CAD system in the police department. It's computer-aided dispatch. So every time a call is made to dispatch, a CAD number is punched. Usually to punch a CAD number, the police need to address the situation in some way, shape, or form, either if it's a 911 hang-up or an actual call. So for the Motel 6, we did some research, and I went back 3 years. I did 2023, 2024, and 2025. In 2023, we had 696 CAD incidents. 2024, 877, and this past year, up to date, 2025, we have 746. That comes out to over, like the director said, over 2,000 CAD incidents. Now, this ranges from any sort of call. It could be a sick person call, a welfare check, a domestic assault. The majority of our calls are all reactive calls, meaning we were called to the motel either through 911 or through a third party. Out of those incidents, we also did another breakdown within that 3-year period. 129 of those incidents were with a female victim, meaning
they were assaulted.
They were assaulted or a victim of some sort of crime.
Yeah.
Which is excessive.
Yeah.
Now, to respond to a motel over 2,000 times in a 3-year period is just unacceptable. It takes our resources away from the rest of the township, which is a big town. I can go into a recent incident within the last 2 weeks. We had a report of a man with a handgun in one of the rooms. A male and a female were barricaded in a hotel room, and we had to call out the SWAT team to clear the room. That's just one example.
My concern is that that night happened to be a council meeting night, and I was over in dispatch while this was going on, and then I came over to the council meeting, and the council was debating the pop-up party ordinance going on, and I said, "You guys are debating that when we have an ongoing hostage situation." And there were some members of the public that were actually laughing about that at the council meeting. They thought it was fake news.
Wow. And
you had a former member of the Board of Education that actually got up to the mic and said he found it hard to believe that the township has this many calls to these hotels, which is stunning that somebody would actually get up to the mic and say that.
Another thing I'd like to point out is the residents of these motels are not township residents.
Yeah.
They're placed there through other organizations throughout the state.
Or even Department of Corrections.
Department of Corrections, Department of Parole, Department of Probation, Social Services.
Yeah.
But it's also affecting the surrounding businesses in the area.
Right.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that's a good time. We had an opportunity to speak with a couple of the business owners over there. So I think we're going to cue that up, and let's go to that interview. I thought it would be very pertinent with the discussion of what the township governing body has been talking about, as well as myself, over the last couple months about some crime issues in our community, and more particularly in the extended stay hotels at the extended stay itself on South Randolph Road in Centennial, and also the Motel 6 over there off of Centennial and Stelton Road. I happen to be here today with the two proprietors, Anthony and Dana of Gabriele's restaurant, as well as our public safety director, Keith Stith. We've been meeting regularly with this, and obviously our police department's been out here. But I think our residents need to have a face and need to really truly know what's going on. Now, I know some of your patrons have seen what's been going on, but there is a segment of the town who does not believe that there's a crime issue going on over this area. They blame it on everybody else other than the folks that are perpetrating the crimes, not just on the patrons of the businesses, but also folks that traverse our community. And we'll get into a list of all the crimes that are going on. But Dana, why don't you just explain some of the stories that both you and Anthony and your employees have been going through over the last couple of years, but now it has been exacerbated in the last 6 months. It's gotten totally out of control. And I think the general public needs to hear your story, and I'm sure a lot of the other property owners in this area would love to come and tell their stories too. But we're here at your finest status, which, by the way, has great wings.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Go ahead.
So I would say that probably starting in January 2021, there has been a new owner of the motel. It's no longer the Motel 6 franchise, Piscataway LLC. We noticed things changed a lot. I believe he has become a very big part of like either Section 8 or social services, which is people from county jail getting put in that hotel. I'll just go with a quick story from this past Saturday. We had dinner, it was 8 o'clock. I had maybe about 6 or 8 tables on the floor, people dining, just, it's December, they're getting together with family. I had a lady run into the restaurant for a rescue. She was being held captive in a room from her boyfriend who just got out of county jail, and it was the first opportunity she was able to run away from him. She ran into a restaurant. Thank God we had security at the door that helped her stop the gentleman from grabbing her. He grabbed her hair and pulled it off. When she came into the restaurant, her face was all beaten up. We got her ice, we got her water, but I have a full restaurant, and this happens.
So all your patrons are all seen as this woman who obviously was basically, in essence, sort of kidnapped and was being held hostage. And the person was probably pummeling her in the room.
Her face was so big. I mean, we got her ice, we got her water, we called 911. Now the cops came and they did their job, but now it's an hour in the restaurant. I have all police officers by the table, trying to help her, trying to figure out things. But this is happening in my restaurant, 8 o'clock, dinner time.
Prime dinner time on a weekend.
It's not a good look.
Yeah.
I mean,
everybody, we tried so hard to not see people next to her because we didn't want to embarrass her. Our hearts went out to her. But at the end of the day, if they had security at that hotel, maybe they would have seen her and been able to help her. 3 Fridays ago, a gentleman came into our restaurant looking for a gentleman that just raped a woman in a room. So he had a white hooded sweatshirt. That's all we know. He was going through our restaurant. There's a guy here with a white hooded sweatshirt. He just raped a woman in the room. I mean, that's scary. It's lunchtime on Friday.
So what was the reaction of some of your female personnel? Obviously, they're
scared.
I mean, they're all frightened. They're scared. We have to walk them out every night. We're just scared.
So you have private security that you have to hire to escort your employees out to the parking lot to get in their cars.
On Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we take the financial burden. If we don't have an event, and if we have an event, we always have security. But if we do not have an event, we still have to have security because we have to make sure we all walk out together. And the girls that are not here for closing, they get walked to their car by security. Not just for the girls, but for the parents to feel that their kids are safe working here.
It's not, you're not right. You have your daughter, and then you don't know one of these people could just, who knows what they could do in these rooms, whatever. So it could happen.
So the bottom line is coming money out of your pocket to ensure that there's public safety and the businesses out here. I mean, I know the PD, Keith can speak to it. We talked to other members of the press, and all the council members got the packet of all the calls that come over here and the types of calls that are over there. Keith, this is out of control.
Absolutely. Since my short tenure here in Piscataway, Motel 6 is probably my biggest headache since I've been here. for multiple reasons, because my guys are here 2, 3, 4 times
Oh, yeah.
a day. And I don't have to
I
tell
see,
you
I
that
see the cars.
all the time.
Pop in there.
Ambulance, it's not just the cops, it's the ambulance too.
Absolutely. So it does strain public safety.
Yes.
But, I just want to, and the mayor know this, the criminal element at the Motel 6 is not isolated only to Motel 6 as well, right? Those guys and gals that commit crimes venture to our retail stores and also get involved in shoplifting. I had a great conversation with a loss prevention officer from Walmart, and he tells me that folks that live in that motel come to his store all the time to commit crimes.
Yeah.
So
They're not there shopping.
they definitely are not there shopping. So it's a headache. We had conversations prior to this, and I have some ideas on how we can address it in the short term.
Yeah.
I think the concern for me as the mayor, and I hope this is the concern of the 7 council members, because ultimately it's going to be them voting on this, that their fiduciary responsibility is public safety in this town.
Mm-hmm.
This hotel behind your establishment, Motel 6 and all 6, has become a hub of criminal activity and is attracting other criminals from around the state. And they're using this as a base of operations
Yes.
It's their help.
100%.
Yes.
to go to other areas outside of our community, but also within our community. I am a firm believer that no matter where you live in this community, or whether you're passing through or patronizing the businesses of our community, there needs to be a reasonable expectation of public safety.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you don't have public safety, you don't have a community. And there are those folks out there that don't believe that this criminality is happening here, because I believe they're in their own isolated neighborhoods,
Yeah.
Right.
Piscataway's a
sitting
huge
home
town, yeah.
watching Netflix or
Yeah.
whatever,
Right.
Hallmark, and
Yeah.
ordering Uber Eats from Gabriele's
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
And they don't see all the criminal activity. Now, I know the police department does, but I think what it is, what really concerns me, is the type of crimes that are being committed.
Right.
The
it's-
rapes, the
The
assaults,
assaults.
Oh,
the
yeah.
aggravated assaults, the drug deals going down constantly.
You
People
actually
are
witnessed
dying.
one.
Yeah, so
Drug dealers, a lot of drugs.
we know, we're never going to get involved, but we say hello to people.
Yeah.
And like you would see like a gentleman, he's a little older in a wheelchair. Hi, how are you? We say hi every day. He dies of a fentanyl overdose. That's heartbreaking. That's
Yeah.
the drugs that are going on in that hotel. And it's not just
Yeah.
one, it's multiple. You'll see ambulances there. And it's really sad. And if anybody wanted to come and hear all the stories, I mean, one of our employees' vehicle was crashed into on a Friday night. The lady had been picking up drugs.
yeah.
She was out of her mind. The only way we were able to catch her is because she came back the following Friday. Now, she had hit multiple of our employees' cars. No one got the license. There's nothing to do. It's an expense on now my employee through the insurance. But I had noticed that the lady came back the following Friday, so I called the cops. The cops arrested her. She had a warrant out. But at the end of the day, she had no car insurance.
Yeah.
So-
To me, ultimately,
There's
What
nothing
do you do?
Right.
We have gone. We
It was
went to the
like-
hotel to get
That's why
video.
insurance are higher.
Yeah.
No help. They were very unhelpful. They wouldn't even give the video to the girl so she can show it to the insurance company. I mean,
Yeah, there's a lot of things like that.
2021 to now, it's so bad. I mean, I've been here for 29 years. And Motel 6 was never like the greatest.
Yeah.
It was okay. It was under control.
But not like
But
this.
not like this. It's so bad. I mean, the phone calls, but if you actually like find out what the phone calls are about, so I'm hoping the council members do their research, go to the businesses. I know at Burger King, I believe it was the manager or the owner, her vehicle was completely totaled. One of the kids that was staying at the hotel had either a
Oh my God,
breakdown
that
for
was
drugs or
a
mental
scene.
illness. He had no shirt on. He was like beating the car. He didn't even
He
know
destroyed the car.
Yeah, for
Like,
no
Yeah.
reason.
For no reason. He had a mental issue. I mean, it's a shame to say.
I
but
do. Ironically, a couple of weeks ago at the council meeting when this was being brought up, the same time there was a call here to both Burger King
Right.
and Dunkin' Donuts with somebody verbally assaulting all the employees, and then that the police had to come and take him away. Where was he housing out?
Yes.
Motel 6.
Motel 6.
And then a couple of weeks ago, there was a man with a half filled gasoline cans swinging,
No.
sloshing
Yep,
gas
yep.
outside Dunkin' Donuts.
Donuts, yep.
With people going in, threatening like they was going to torch them.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm an average person and you see somebody with a gas
that's
can
scary.
out there
That's scary.
slinging gas
It's
out there as
scary.
you're going
Yeah.
in, you don't know if they're going to have a match and
Oh
light it
yeah,
up.
the whole thing will blow up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what's happening now is social services sending criminals there. Some people are in Section 8
And
there.
when I hear, I believe it's also the Department of Corrections when they get out.
That's
Oh
correct.
yeah,
right
they,
there.
they
Yeah,
get
probably-
dropped up.
they just-
But
yeah,
they're not paying attention to like, hey, there's a bar right next door, or hey, there's children next door. Maybe they did something, to a woman, and now the kids aren't safe. Like, and the guy that's running that hotel, he's not there. There's no safety that he's creating for the business that affects all of us. And then if you think about it, at the end of the day, if all the cops are there every day, if someone's calling 911 and it's during the day and you got 6 cop cars there, how is the town safe? I'm not safe. But let's not just talk about us as a business. These people, the council people really need to understand that this business is just relying on all of Piscataway police to help them
Basically-
handle this situation.
For lack of a better word, Dana, the taxpayers of Piscataway Township are subsidizing the extended stay in a Motel 6
Corrected.
to perpetuate the criminals hanging out here. That's basically what's happening.
100%.
And anybody who brings up the accusation, oh, you're kicking the homeless out, this is not about homelessness.
No.
Matter of fact, we do not have anybody housed at any of these hotels from Piscataway Township. As a matter of fact, we do have a total of 6 unhoused folks in town, and we know who they are. We take care of them. They're offered stuff, but they turn it down. This is about the criminals coming here and using this as a base of operation
It's opportunity.
to denigrate the quality of life here in Piscataway
Yes.
for everybody.
Yeah. Just to bring this up, it's the girl that actually got beat up here on Saturday, she actually told me that she was shocked that her boyfriend got put in this from county jail. When she asked for help from social services, they put her in a shelter. So it's not homeless people that are being put there. It's really not.
Right.
And that's what we want people to know. It is criminal activity. And then to think that, I've heard some people say, oh, well, the police aren't doing their job. The police are doing their job. They're there every day.
Yeah, there
Like,
was somebody online who's a housing advocate who
Yeah.
actually was blaming the local
Yeah,
police for
which
not
is
doing their job.
horrible.
That's
I'm
funny.
saying, all right, well, let me get this straight. So the person who was beating the crap out of the lady the other week, it was the police department's
I
fault.
know.
Yeah. I mean,
You know,
and they're
it's
there
just-
all the
It's
time.
bizarre. It's totally
very
bizarre.
bizarre.
I mean, and we see the police there. They're so calm. They're so patient because they are dealing with drugs and mental
Right.
illness. So the fact that she had the audacity to kind of insult them, and that to me was shocking. And that's why I said people need to come and find out what's going on, witness it, because maybe then they'd have a different opinion. We live here. This is our
Well,
business.
I do know, Dana, is that the really overarching concern was where some of these impromptu meth labs were being built at these
my God.
hotels. How the heck does that happen? That the
Exactly.
managers don't know about that.
Okay, so
Stunning.
I actually know how that's happening because we're dealing with this. So another financial burden for us is because it is a family business and we care about it so much and we actively work here. Our financial burden with pest control is wild.
Yeah.
Our building is probably this far apart. What did we say? That's 2 feet.
I mean, there's like a little
Yeah.
walkway.
Walkway.
Very,
So-
very little.
It's a breezeway.
Yeah.
We've gone down to the township and talked to somebody from the Board of Health because some of the people that are staying there tell us how dirty it is and how they have pest issues or roaches, and they think Anthony can handle it because we own the property, but we don't own the building over there. So we can't get in there. So we went to the health services and they pretty much said to us, if the hotel guy calls for pest control, he's doing his job. But if the person doesn't open the door for pest control, so you're living there for 24 months, let's just say you're on
they don't get
drugs, you're
service.
doing something illegal in there, or you have mental illness and you think that the pest control guy is going to steal your stuff, you don't open the door. So now that door's not been open for a very long time.
Yeah.
I have to deal with that mess. But now maybe that's how the meth labs, because the owners are not there. It's people running the hotels. There's no codes that are saying, okay, this door needs to be open and we need to see what's going on. I know the fire marshal was there. When the fire marshal popped in and did a surprise visit, there were hot plates in all the rooms.
Yeah, they found out a lot of illegal
Oh my God.
things
Yeah.
that would burn the whole place down.
They were there for 24 months. But the codes are not built to be like that. If there's a fire there, or something happens because they're breaking the fire codes, because they're living there for 24 months and that's how they're going to eat, we're going to be damaged. The people could be hurt in the building. It's another
See,
public
the
safety.
ironically is it's illegal to be doing that because we have a 30-day limit, so you can't sign an extended contract with that. So the manager's breaking the lease and zoning violations. That's a whole nother issue. But like in regards to the extended stay, they actually must have purchased lumber from Lowe's or something
yeah.
and built an elaborate system with
crazy.
2 rooms. I mean, nobody saw
Nobody
the
saw
lumber
lumber
coming through the building.
Cleaning lady, nobody walking
I
in
don't
the
think
room.
there's
And then
any-
thus there was the explosions that took out 4 rooms on the 3rd floor
Wow.
of the facility, and they were under reconstruction, I think, for about 4 or 5 months out there. But what's concerning is they're manufacturing drugs at these hotels and selling it
Oh, yeah.
in the street. I don't know whether it was being sold to the kids in there, and you don't know what was manufactured there. And as you said, fentanyl, you just get a little prick of that, and you're dead. You know, you have hypodermic needles on the ground.
Yep.
On the ground. I mean, you have stabbings on occasions. You have fights where people are
All
going
the
through the
time.
windows.
All
I
the
mean, I
time.
think you had a break in one time. You were closing up.
Yeah, there was a guy on the roof
Oh, yeah, I was told
trying to
that
break
earlier.
into the building. He, jumped over our fence. He was trying to go on our roof. We had, video of that. We have tagging on the building. We had to repeat the building. It's really sad. I mean, we have a party room. We do whatever we can to make sure people are safe. But God forbid you leave your door open, all your stuff is robbed out of your car. I'm mortified for my customer. Now when
Yeah.
I have parties, I say, hey, when you're carrying stuff in, please make sure you lock your vehicles.
Yeah.
That's sad that I have to talk like that because we care about our customers and we want to make sure everyone's safe. But it shouldn't have to be like that. This is Piscataway. It's not a third world country where you would just expect all this stuff to be happening and it's just okay. I mean, the cops are doing what they can do. But at the end of the day, if they get arrested and then they get back out and they go right back to where their residence is for another 24 months, they're just going to continually be there.
I want to reiterate, it's not the county board of social services, meaning Middlesex County. It's outside counties
Outside.
and the prison system that
Yes.
are releasing people.
That's
into it.
correct.
I just want to clarify that. And there are, again, no township residents reside over at these sites. None whatsoever. And I feel your pain, Dana and Anthony.
Yes.
My wife's a small business owner, and it's not just affecting small businesses. I mean, you have the Lowe's, the Walmart.
Lowe's,
You
Walmart.
have all the businesses here. Wine Chateau's been affected. I mean, every one of these businesses along Centennial has been. And now, from what we understand, is it's spilling out over to the north side where residents of the hotels are walking or going over to the businesses over and the other side of Stelton in the New Market area and on Washington Avenue. I know the ice cream parlor was having problems with people
Yep.
defecating in front of their businesses, when people are waiting online during the summer for ice cream with their kids. So we do have a serious problem in Piscataway Township at these sites that are, like I said, reiterated again, it's become the hub of the criminals that are being located by other agencies, and it's attracting their friends to do criminal activity. And like I said before, I am a firm believer that you should be able to have reasonable expectations of safety in this community. And that's not happening right now. This is about, we want to kick the criminals out of Piscataway. I want to see that they're voted off the island, because it's not fair to all the people in Piscataway who come home, they work, they want to see their community safe and beautiful. They want to be able to patronize your business, all the other businesses here safely. They shouldn't have to worry when they walk out that their car's been broken into or their tires are slashed or somebody left empty alcohol bottles or hypodermic needles on their vehicles or next to it, especially if you have young kids with you.
Especially
It's crazy. And the businesses shouldn't have to hire extra security like you're doing to assure that the employees aren't going to get pummeled by the criminals as they walk out the door to go to their cars to go home. And it does create a recruitment effort because, when you have stuff like that going on, who the heck's going to want to work in these businesses?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
It's just mind-boggling how some people are disconnected from reality. Listen, we want to help we don't want to see anybody. We want to see everybody sheltered and stuff like that, but not the criminals.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
No,
exactly.
but that game's done. And the only way this happens is that we got to change the rules on governing these hotels with the stays, so there's a constant, so it doesn't become a base of operation for the criminals. And we have some other ideas with attorneys to force them to hire security and things like that. But with that being said, until the criminals are pushed out and known that they can't use this as a base, Piscataway as a base of operation, nobody's safe in this community. And I mean nobody.
Yeah.
I don't care where you live in this community.
True.
Until this gets under control, nobody's safe in our community. I can't reiterate that enough to the township governing body. And I'm zeroing in on the government because they're the ones that are going to have to vote in order to allow the police department to do their jobs.
Yeah.
Because right now the police department doesn't have enough latitude to do their jobs.
This is our neighborhood. This
Yeah.
is our business. This is our family business. We're not going anywhere. This is happening in our backyard. So like imagine, just put yourself in our position. If this was happening in your backyard, you would want safety. We just want safety. That's all we want. We we're just asking if in our backyard we could have safety, how they have it in their neighborhood.
And I can tell you right now, none of the council members or those advocates would volunteer to bring the criminals to stay at their house.
No,
No,
definitely
no,
not.
no.
Right? I didn't hear any of them saying, "Oh, I'll take a couple of the criminals in for a couple of weeks so they could change their base of operation." Because you know why they won't do it? Is because their neighbors will run them out of town in a heartbeat because they don't want that crap happening in their neighborhoods.
Yeah.
You're right.
But well, Dana and Anthony, I want to thank you.
Thank you.
For all the work that you've done to try to be level-headed in this area with this crime crisis going on in this area right now in Piscataway Township. And no business owner or no neighborhood in this town should have to go through this. And I want to apologize for that because as the mayor, as the chief executive officer, maybe not enough has been done proactively. So with that being said, they have great food here at Gabriele's here, a good job like that, and patronizing, and the other businesses, Dunkin' Donuts, the Burger King, across the street over by Wine Chateau and all the other businesses over there,
Party
and
City.
the IHOP, Party City over. This is a neighborhood, as you said,
this
Dana.
is-
and
this is a
Brian.
big
So
neighborhood.
we need to protect this neighborhood as every square inch of this town. So thank you for stopping Ion Piscataway
Thank
to
you.
let people know what the hell is really going on over here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for taking the time and hearing us. We really appreciate that. That means a lot to us.
And I want to thank the first responders and also the Piscataway PD who's been dealing with this issue. And you know what? One thing I forgot to mention before we close out is that they are being put at risk too
absolutely.
on a continuing basis.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
They have families too,
Yeah,
and they're being
Yeah.
put at risk. So
And they're
it's
there
not just the
every day.
businesses, it's not just the people, it's also our first responders too.
Yes, everybody's involved.
Yeah. And they're doing an amazing job. I've witnessed them. They're so calm. They're so patient.
Thank you.
But they're there so much, and there has to be a scare sometimes of them too entering a room. Of, you don't know what you're entering.
True.
So
Yeah. Well, thank you,
Thank you.
for stopping by on Piscataway again.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, obviously, the interview was very powerful. Keith, you were there with, obviously Tony and Dana right there, and they're just one of the few businesses that and owners that are being affected there. That's their as she said, that's her neighborhood, and I know for a fact that nobody would ever tolerate that in their own neighborhood. It appears that over by that. Both those hotels, it becomes a smorgasbord of crime. And as you said, Captain, none of them, they're not township residents, they're not homeless. These are folks that are there, especially the ones that are coming out of corrections. They're getting out of the corrections facility, they want to meet up with their friends to commit more crimes. And it's got to stop. I mean, you've had rapes, you've had assault, simple assault, aggravated assault, you have shoplifting, the businesses over in Lowe's and Walmart and all those other businesses with the amount of shoplifting that's going on, the damages to private property, left and right, handgun issues. I know one of the things, I know Councilwoman Lombardi was quick to say that she's concerned, fearing for the safety of the officers that show up out there. Because, as you said, you never know if somebody's got a handgun or a knife showing up on the scene on these calls. I mean, it's just uncontrollable right now.
And another thing with the motels is we have Rutgers football in town.
Yeah.
You have outside people coming from out of state. They want to go to a motel that's close by. Motel 6 is very convenient, and you want a peaceful stay when you go to a motel. You don't want chaos, and Motel 6 is nothing peaceful about it right now.
Well, I think part of the problem is a lot of the rooms are already booked because
because
agencies are booking for calling town. I think the fact that they have a bulletproof vestibule area says it all. Says it all right there.
Yes.
And I know you just recently, one of the officers was assaulted next door to Motel 6.
At the Burger King.
Yeah, at the Burger King. They were looking for him for shoplifting from one of the local stores. They found him at the Burger King, sitting in the one of the booths. He just got up and assaulted one of our officers, punched him in the head, and they had to handcuff him and place him under arrest. He'll be going to the county jail.
I think what's really, and when I said earlier in the show that there's a cancer out there and it's metastasizing, it's now spreading up and down the Stelton Road, New Market area, North Stelton area. It's not now just focused on the two hotels. We've had issues like shoplifting and stealing things all up and down all the stores all in there. And it all filters back to the two hotels right there. I mean, I want to talk a little bit about what happened at Extended Stay years ago when there was an illegal meth lab being built.
That was this past year, yes. There were 3 rooms being rented out. We had received word that there was possible drug activity going on in these rooms. So we referred it to the New Jersey State Police gang unit. Obviously, they're busy with other stuff throughout the state. But on the one particular day, back in, I believe, July, our officers were called there for an unrelated incident regarding an assault. As the door was opened, they saw inside what looked like a science lab, and it ended up being a meth lab. So we ended up charging 5 individuals with first-degree trafficking, drug trafficking, for methamphetamine, and we had to call the hazmat unit in to disassemble the unit because this is explosive chemicals when they do these labs. But they had 3 separate rooms rented out on 3 separate floors while running their operation.
So, which goes to show you that the managers and/or the owners don't care.
Don't care.
How does this possibly happen in a business here?
And if you are my supplier, I don't care either, right?
Yeah.
You know, so that's a major issue.
Well, that's the thing, is that the drugs are going out not just into Piscataway area. It's being filtered out. It's become a large network. And this is not what our community is about.
Nope.
And this has nothing to do with homeless folks in town. This is unadulterated, straight up crime. And if you, as I said, when we were meeting with Dana and Anthony, if you don't have a safe community, you don't have a community. I don't care what anybody, I don't care what political stripes you're from, sorry, it just doesn't work that way. What's really concerning is, like, out in the parking lots, there's hypodermic needles. Drugs, as Dana said, that they're coming in to buy their drugs.
Drug transactions. Yeah, she talked often about drug transactions taking place in that parking lot.
Which is really scary because people are coming in already high and they're leaving with their drugs. You don't know, they're driving on our streets, and you don't know what kind of potential motor vehicle accident they're going to get into and do bodily injury to potentially some of our residents. And when you have a situation, as I said in the camera before, it doesn't matter what part of town you live in, there's a reasonable expectation that there has to be safety in our town, that people should be able to go into their neighborhoods, aka you shouldn't be having these large pop-up parties creating a potential hazardous condition. You shouldn't have drug manufacturing facility, illegal drug manufacturing, where in a case of when there was an explosion in a hotel where it took out several of the rooms and they were out of commission for a while. But it's got to stop, and the only way it's going to stop is that the township governing body is going to have to pass that ordinance especially with the hotels, that the 30-day limit. Listen, if you're not creating problems there, so be it. No harm, no foul. But if you're one of the ones there that are going to create crime in our community on a consistent basis and show no regard for folks that live in this town and neighborhood, I'm sorry, you're not a welcome individual. We're a welcoming town, but you will not be welcomed in this community. We're going to make it very hard for you to stay in this community.
Yes.
And I think most people can agree with that. But there's a segment of the population out there that just view that this is all being manufactured. It's fake news. And as you said, Captain, over 2,000 plus calls over a 3-year period. That is impressive.
Yeah, this is not manufactured. This is what it is. It's here.
So we're also going to be talking about over the next several months is about adding more security, that they'll have to hire full-time vetted security. We're working out with the township attorney on that, and other safety measures. If these businesses don't want to play along and clean up their act, we're going to have to clean it up for them. And because I am very concerned that one of our police officers is going to get seriously injured out there on one of these calls. And anybody out there who says it's the police department's fault that they're not doing their job is totally misleading and incorrect on that.
Yeah.
As a director, I mean.
Absolutely. I can tell you, our men and women work hard. They work very hard. This is not being made up by the police department.
Yeah.
As the captain mentioned, we respond to the calls, and the calls don't lie.
Yeah, and that neighborhood, that area, that section of Piscataway has every right to have live and work in safety, just like the folks in their individual neighborhoods where they're living and stuff like that. And they shouldn't have to be put up with knuckleheads coming into our community and creating a very extremely dangerous situation within our community. And as I said before, this is not on a brochure we want to put out that you have a crime issue and think. This is freely admitting out there that there is a crime issue and we want to deal with it and make sure that folks are in a safe environment. And we need the public support. And more importantly, myself as the mayor, I need the council members to get on board that public safety is a critical component of your job when you get elected, is safety. And they have to recognize that and don't be listening to Trenton lobbyists or anybody out there, that there isn't a crime situation. Interesting enough, none of these folks who've been critical of this have ever stayed over at the Motel 6 or the extended stay. The critics. Because you know why? They don't want to stay over there because they know there's a problem. They just won't admit to it. But I want to thank both of you for coming on the Eye on Piscataway, and look forward to working with you and the command staff and the rest of the team to solve this problem and to get it straightened out because it is something that has been very challenging that we haven't had to deal with in the last 20 plus years, but this has now become a very large issue for our community. And I just want to let the general public know there is a large crime issue going on in the Centennial Avenue corridor. It's because of the two hotels over there, Extended Stay and the Motel 6, that is filtering out to all areas of our community. And it's got to be stopped, and stopped now. So with that, I want to thank everybody for watching Eye on Piscataway. We look forward to seeing you in the month of February. And don't forget the MLK event that we're going to have honoring Dr. King.